Okay, in Dynasty rookie drafts, talent and draft capital is the most important thing,
That's
but
right.
you could also throw into the ring landing spots. And what we're going to do is look at the players on offense who are drafted in the first round of the 23 draft and rank the landing spots for those players and just talk about if we can envision a clear pathway to volume to success or if it's a little bit murky. We're going to rank the 10 players offensively that went in the first round. Do us a massive favor. Hit that like button to show some love. Subscribe if you like Dynasty content. And I want you to comment down below who had the best landing spot of anyone in the first round. And if you want to dominate your Dynasty rookie drafts or startup drafts, go ahead and use our code LAND, LAND, for 30% off your membership at flockfantasy.com/land.
Come on, baby.
Now, why don't we just clarify the tiers? We got GOAT spots.
Yes.
Great. Landing spots clear. We can see the pathway. I like it. Okay. Not bad. Not
like
the
it,
best,
Picasso.
but you could definitely make a case for it. Let's talk is like, how is this going to work? And then big question marks are, I'm struggling to see, or I don't see it, is I'm struggling to see, right? Like I'm struggling to see
trying to
exactly
the
how this is
pathway
going to
and-
work.
Exactly.
So we're going to go player by player. The first player I have here is Jordan Addison.
Mm-hmm.
I put Jordan Addison on. I like it. What about you?
You know, I'm in a weird spot right now. I do like it, but I'm really interested in Let's Talk. And not necessarily because I don't see him being successful. And this has been something that we said on the live stream. It's just more, what is the long-term goal here? And what does that look like in a quarterback perspective? Justin Jefferson, without a doubt, is going to get his targets and is going to be demanding however many targets per game. But now you have to put into account TJ Hawkinson, who was just acquired this past season, during the middle of the season. Now Jordan Addison's here. I'm not saying Jordan Addison is not going to be a fantasy relevant wide receiver. I think we might be seeing a little bit more inconsistencies in a per game basis.
Okay.
Once again, I am not knocking Jordan Addison. I'm not saying he's not talented. I just want to throw that question out for the community and how they feel, because that's how I'm feeling right now. My true gut feelings. Just want to put that out there.
Let me take a whack at this one, and I personally think he needs to at minimum be in the I like it tier.
I would agree. I would agree.
I hear where you're coming from, but I also don't believe that Dynasty players think that far in advance. Because guess what? The wide receiver one in Dynasty football right now is Justin Jefferson. And if I look at all these wide receivers who went in the first round, and I ask myself, who has the best chance to put up the most fantasy points in year one? It probably is Jordan Addison, because he fits in perfectly here in Minnesota. He complements Justin Jefferson really well. You can't double JJ. You can't double Addison. And yes, I understand the concern long term, but people think in like a span of months when it comes to value or even weeks in season. They don't think about years in advance. Jordan Addison could very easily be the number one producing wide receiver this year. There's concerns about Kirk Cousins. I totally get it. But I think he at minimum needs to be in the I like it tier, because if you're concerned about Kirk Cousins, well, then sell Jordan Addison after this year if you really don't like the talent. But I hear you, but I just don't think that. I'm thinking in a year from now, I struggle to see Addison's value being shaky, is what I'll say.
And I would agree. I think he should definitely be in I like, and that's why I said I'm in this gray area between I like and Let's Talk, because I do want to bring up the conversation. I do want to know what everyone's feeling, because that's how I'm feeling right now. Once again, not knocking the player, not knocking what I believe he can be, just really questioning the longevity as a wide receiver and somebody I'm investing. Because if Kirk Cousins does walk after this year, which is a true possibility, and then there's this quarterback carousel where, like that is going to be demanding for Justin Jefferson. Like Justin Jefferson is pissed because he's not getting the targets he's getting anymore. TJ Hawkinson is pissed now he's not getting the targets he's not getting with Kirk Cousins. Now Jordan Addison's like, well,
I hear you.
I kind of just got drafted. You know, I'm only in my second year, right? So, not knocking him.
Day out here.
Yeah, right. Like freaking second day out here. What you mean? Like, I'm just happy I'm here. You know.
No,
So
I really like Addison. And he to me this is what I said last year about Chris Olave, and maybe I was wrong because Garrett Wilson would have been the answer. But when I looked at all the options last year, I said Chris Olave is probably going to have the most production year one.
Yeah,
he feels like the guy who's going to instantly fit in day one, be open, get a bunch of targets in that offense. That feels like Jordan Addison to me this year.
Fair.
I hear you. Anthony Richardson to me, GOAT spot. I mean,
agreed.
You agree? Okay, I like just quickly bullet points. The same coaching staff that helped Jalen Hurts get where he is. 4th overall pick. If he starts day one, which he probably should if he's a 4th overall pick.
I think he will.
Then it's not like he will get 1,000 rushing yards if he starts every game, all 17 games. He will be 1,000-yard rusher at the quarterback position. And if you're concerned about his throwing and his mechanics and his accuracy, I hear you. But you have the same concerns for Justin Fields right now, don't you? And he's a first-round pick locked and loaded in Dynasty Superflex startup drafts. So it's such a safe floor, and the ceiling is so high in fantasy that I think it's the perfect landing spot with him in that offense. So, and I guess we should clarify, by the way, we're not ranking these players. We're ranking the player and landing spot combination.
Yes, exactly.
I think that should be very clear right now, okay?
Yeah, it should be.
We'll have a rankings video tomorrow after day 2, and we'll do a lot of those. But this is just based off the landing spots. I think that should be very clear.
Yeah, just based off landing spots. So obviously Anthony Richardson to the Colts, Jordan Addison going to the Minnesota Vikings. Just to add on Anthony Richardson, perfect. I think it's to the T of where he went and exactly what we want to see as a project quarterback. You look at the Will Levis and the Anthony Richardson and you say, I want the traits guy. You go Anthony Richardson every single time. And that's exactly what the Colts did. And they made a good investment. They made a great investment.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, why don't we talk next about Jahmyr Gibbs? Okay. I need to put this in the let's talk category. Because we do need to talk about this.
We 100% do.
If you were on our redraft channel, we live streamed the first round and had a little draft party, whatever you want to call it. I was beside myself furious.
He was gone. He was done. Done for. Done till
dead. The Lions. And because I've talked about Jahmyr Gibbs for a year now and have been envisioning him in the NFL and what role he could play, only for him to go to one of the teams I just did not understand the most. But I think when you look at it, if DeAndre Swift is truly traded, then I think he goes to the let's talk tier. Okay?
Right.
If DeAndre Swift is not traded, purely from a landing spot perspective, I think it's fair to say I don't understand this one.
I
that does
agree.
not mean I'm not taking him top 5, top 6 in rookie drafts. It means I don't understand what the Lions are doing, but I have to trust the draft capital. But I have him in the let's talk tier because I'm trying to understand. Only look at the landing spot. Is Swift moving? They're saying that there's no plans to move him. Is that just talk? If that is real, what the hell? It's confusing with Jahmyr Gibbs out here.
It's very confusing, and I do have him once again in this in between let's talk. I don't see at the moment. I have him in I don't see. I can see the pathway of us going to let's talk. Look, the only way I can really understand this, and I still don't like it, and like Zach said, DeAndre Swift is off this team. Now where's Jahmyr Gibbs' true upside? I don't know. Because Monty is still there. And we looked at this on the live stream. Monty has a 3-year contract with 18, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was $18 million guaranteed in 3 years. And they have an out not in 2024, but in 2025, which means he's going to be on this team for 2 years without a doubt. So how high is Gibbs' upside really? Right? And I think that is the biggest question here.
Yeah.
And I can't give you that answer. I don't know. And my gut feeling says he's just going to be a pass-catching guy. My other gut feeling says is gonna be a rotational thing, right? It's a 50-50 workload. I just don't think you
draft that player at 12 overall.
I agree.
Again, the whole point of this video is landing spots. So again, this is not ranking the rookies.
Mm-hmm.
I hear you. I just don't think you make that move at 12 overall.
And I agree, which
I'm
doesn't make sense.
The benefit of the doubt.
Which doesn't make sense, and that's why I was like, okay, so you have Monty, so that means you have Monty, you paid Monty, you're paying 2 running backs because Jahmyr Gibbs is clearly going to get this rookie contract with a top 12 draft capital. Is going to be, I'm pretty sure, I don't know off the top of my head, is going to be getting paid more than Monty.
Maybe, yeah. I actually don't know. I think that probably could be the case.
What's happening here, right? So I don't see.
Again, we're only looking at landing spots because the other side of this that wouldn't be relevant to the landing spots is the draft capital. And I said this in a previous video, but the only starting running back in the NFL today that has higher draft capital than Jahmyr Gibbs is Saquon Barkley. So again, just looking at landing spots here, but there's question marks. Anyway,
there's question marks, man. I don't know. I don't see
let's have a look at CJ Stroud. I want to know where you sit as the resident CJ Stroud quarterback 1 truther.
Mm-hmm.
I have him on Let's Talk, and I can explain why, but I'm curious where you have it.
Okay. I have it and I like it. I think it's a good solidified spot. I think the Houston Texans did exactly what they want. They got their quarterback. They got their quarterback on the offensive side, and they got their quarterback on the defensive side with Will Anderson, and they're going to upbring him, right. He goes there with John Mechie and some other players, and I think they're going to continue to build. Day 2 is going to be massive. Is that Josh Downs that comes and becomes another wide receiver to help him. Dameon Pierce is there. I like this landing spot. I think he's going to grow very well. I think the poise and what we've seen there and the investment, once again, the 102, I think it was all smoke with Will Levis and everything. I think they were just trying to steer everyone away. But I like this landing spot.
I hear where you're coming from, but you're using draft capital a little bit here. I think let's remove that he was the 2nd overall pick and just look at the landing spot, because then you're working with maybe John Mechie as your wide receiver 1. That's a little bit concerning.
Look, 100%.
And you just sent a 1st-round pick next year, your own 1st-round pick, so you're not getting Marvin Harrison because the 1st-round pick that you have is from the Cleveland Browns.
Mm-hmm.
So there are at minimum concerns on what weapons will surround CJ Stroud. Right now, it looks like Dameon Pierce, John Mechie, and Dalton Schultz. So that's why I'm putting him in the Let's Talk category.
Okay.
Not like if you look at the top 2 quarterbacks who went off the board, who had the better coaching staff? Clearly, the Panthers, right? Mm-hmm. Who did a better job of bringing in weapons for their rookie quarterback?
Yep.
Clearly, the Panthers. And I guess you could make the case that, well, at least the Texans have their 1st next year, or the Browns 1st next year, but the Browns got Deshaun. That could be in the 20s. Yeah, that's why I just want to put him in Let's Talk. But I'm happy to put him in I like it. I just want to be clear. I have him in the Let's Talk category because weapons are important. Trevor Lawrence looked like a complete bust, and you would argue it's similar options right now for CJ Stroud, maybe a little bit better. Then they got Kirk, and things started to look a little bit better. Now you add Ridley, but a young quarterback cannot do it on his own, and maybe something happens in day 2 and I changed my mind, but if you look at CJ, you know what? I'm struggling a little bit to see like this 30 touchdown rookie season, which is unrealistic anyway, but he might struggle a little bit with having Dalton Schultz and John Mechie as his best options.
You know what? They don't have their 2nd overall pick in the 2nd round. They don't have pick 33.
They sent it to the Cardinals.
They sent it to the Cardinals. So, I mean, that is a good argument. Now, that's something that I'm just now picking up on. So that means they're not going to be drafting. So
when's their next pick? Can you tell us?
Their next pick, it looks like, is going to be, no, not even in the 2nd round. It looks
they don't have a 2nd round pick.
It looks like it looks like their next pick, unless they swap with Arizona, but it looks like their next pick is not going to be into the 3rd round.
Okay. They don't have Houston's, or they don't have Cleveland's?
Cleveland's, I don't think so. I'm looking at it right now. No, Green Bay looks like they have Cleveland's.
Okay, so
I mean, it hasn't updated. I could be wrong. I'm looking at Tankathon right now.
So let's just run as if that's true. Maybe we're wrong, but let's run as if that's true. Do you get where I'm kind of like? It's
I get where you're coming from,
man.
I get where you're coming from, but
it's not to say that he's not going to be a good quarterback, but it's going to say maybe he is a candidate where there will be question marks after year one, like Trevor Lawrence.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
but I mean, do they go and try and make a big? I mean, obviously, it's hard to think about that right now. But do they go and make a big splash? Let's say Bengals can't pay for T, they get T. What if they go and get a?
That's a big if.
I know that is a big if, and that can be said with any of these wide receivers that are maybe coming into a contract year. I can't even think one. What if Hollywood Brown doesn't get re-signed to the Cardinals? What if they go out and get, which I doubt, DeAndre Hopkins? I think once again a lot of big ifs.
Do you think DeAndre's coming back to Houston?
Yeah, I know, right? Imagine. What if they get Deontay Johnson? And
at least you hear where I'm coming from.
I agree.
At the minimum, what do you think? Where would you want to put him? At the end of the day, he's your quarterback. When I want to cede to whatever you think.
And I think you bring up a valid point of putting him in Let's Talk, but I'm still riding on. Well, since it's just a landing spot video,
it's just landing spot. But
I'm happy to put in Let's Talk.
Doing rankings, it's a different conversation because of the draft count.
Yeah, because of the arguments, I'm happy to put it in Let's Talk for sure.
Okay, I want to talk next about Bryce Young. I put it in I like it. I didn't want to put it in the GOAT spot, and I guess just the reason behind that, you lost DJ Moore. Yeah, Adam Thielen's there. Hayden Hurst is there. Like, you've done a much better job than what the Texans have done for their rookie quarterback. Better coaching staff. But you also don't have the future firsts that the Texans have, wherever those might be.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't put it in like the GOAT spot because it's not the best spot we've ever seen. But it is still a very damn good one. Like, he's right on the edge for me.
Yeah, it's definitely, once again, Panthers and the Colts were two best landing spots for any quarterback to go and develop.
Yeah.
And with the head coaching with Frank Wright, Josh McCown there, and all those other people that are going to be helping Bryce Young, I personally have him in GOAT spot because this is the best spot for a quarterback in my eyes to go.
Okay.
And
then I'll meet you there. And he's on the edge for me.
Yeah, and they still had their second round. They can bring in Josh Downs. Once again, a lot of big ifs, but the landing spot, the way they're going to upbring Bryce Young, the way he's going to be utilized, I think is going to be fantastic. And I really love this landing spot. And once again, the weapons that they can bring in and just the little help, right? Adam Thielen, not DJ Chalk. Well, yeah, DJ Chalk is over there. Miles Sanders is over there now. So I like what they've done so far to kind of bring weapons around.
Fair.
Hayden Hurst.
That's fair. Okay, Jackson Smith and Jigba. I might have some personal bias here, but I actually really like the spot in Seattle. I've heard a lot of up and down from the community so far. There have been a lot of up and down about this landing spot.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you keep in mind that Tyler Lockett's going to be 31 years old this year, and just what that means historically. He also has an out after 2024, but you've also just landed in an offense with the most efficient quarterback of 2022, who had the highest completion percentage, higher than Joe Burrow, higher than any quarterback that you can name, fourth in passing yards, I think fifth or something in passing touchdowns at 30. Now you add Jackson Smith and Jigba. This is a good offense. I think this team is going to be better than people expect. And, I almost view it as like how the Eagles were successful. I know it's not Jalen Hurts back there, but it's going to be a very efficient offense. DK Metcalf is your A.J. Brown. Jackson Smith and Jigba is your Devonta Smith. I think he's even better than Devonta Smith, right? And then Tyler Lockett is your Dallas Goedert, as far as like the way this target share goes. And I still think Jackson Smith and Jigba is a talented enough player at the end of this year, at the end of season one, not week one, but at the end of the season, he could be the number one target in this offense, in my opinion. That's the type of talent that he has. And an aging Tyler Lockett is going to age at some point. I like the history of this team. I like how he complements DK Metcalf. So I'll put him here and I like it, but I don't know where you stand.
No, once again, I think this one's very similar for me for Jordan Addison. And I think there's less argument here for Jackson Smith than Jigba because it's really just DK Metcalf. And Tyler Lockett is going to be going here, I think, in the near future. But my biggest question, once again, questioning the community, how do you feel about Jackson Smith and Jigba with Geno Smith? Right. And Zach brings up good points, had a really good success rate this past year, completion rate, all that. But once again, the longevity, right? What happens if
Sure.
they're a good team and they can't re-sign Geno Smith in the quarterback carousel? What if they are a bad team? And that makes even better argument for Jackson Smith and Jigba to get a Caleb Williams, a Drake May, right? If the Seahawks are that bad. But if they are not bad and they're in the middle of the pack and it's like, okay, we hit our cap here with Geno, who technically does have an out after this year, after they have an out in 2024.
Is it 2024?
In 2024 for Geno, like what is the next step there, and how does that affect? I mean, remember how we felt when Russell Wilson left with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett? I mean, for me, I was out. So what happens? The same thing happens with Geno, and then we're gonna have that same exact feeling probably, and without an opportunity to get a top quarterback unless they trade for one. That's just a question mark.
This might be a difference in how you and I feel about Geno Smith and how we view Geno Smith.
The thing is, I don't view him differently. I see him that way. I
think he's wildly disrespected, though. Not only within Dynasty community, but within the NFL community as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
What he did last year, it was like I found myself every week, and this, we were doing this together. Yeah. It's like it's gonna fall off at some point. The wheels are gonna fall off.
Yeah, sell him high.
The wheels are gonna fall off. And no, he went out, put the highest completion percentage up, finished as a quarterback 5 in fantasy football, quarterback 10 in points per game, and led his team to a playoff berth. And now you add JSN. He didn't fail with just the 2. Now you add JSN. He's 32. You. He's not 35. He's not 36. He's not Kirk Cousins. He's not Aaron Rodgers. He's 32 years old. So I think I just have a little bit more faith in Geno maybe. And I think the fact that they had a lot of chances to replace Geno and they didn't today, that should say a lot about how they feel.
Definitely speaks volumes. I 100% agree, and I think that's what a lot of people in the fantasy community are worried about is who is going to be the replacement and when that's happened. Is there going to be inconsistencies? I don't think people are necessarily worried about. Well, I think there's 2 reasons. Well, Tyler Lockett's there. If I feel like this is a casual comment. Oh, DK make up Tyler Lockett. You should know Tyler Lockett's older now and should be moving forward. It's for me. It's just more. What's the longevity of the history, not the history, but what's the longevity of this quarterback play for Jackson Smith and Jigba? And is there going to be a quarterback carousel here where we're really, really disappointed? So that's kind of where I'm seeing it right now. But I still have him. I would be okay putting him in the I like it column because I do like the landing spot for sure.
Okay, next Bijan Robinson. Where would you put him?
I mean, I put it in GOAT spot.
Same. We don't need to talk about that. It's like, just for the sake of the video, in summation, perfect landing spot. Only one team rushed the ball more than the Falcons did last year.
Exactly.
You just got a massive upgrade on Tyler Algier, and he's actually going to be a fantasy superstar. So
That's it.
Let's talk about Dalton Kincaid then. Where do you have Dalton Kincaid?
I have him in the Let's Talk, but I think it's more of like a gray area once again. I like this landing spot. I like what's going to happen, but this is a first round tight end, which really in my gut is saying, okay, we're going to be integrating him, but does that still take away? Like, do they get another wide receiver in the second round? Because I don't think Gabe Davis is the answer. They got rid of Cole Beasley, Shakira is still there. I'm more seeing it like, maybe the first round draft capital, we have our goggles on, our drunk goggles on. That's what, like we're not seeing the true vision here. That's how I'm feeling with Dalton Kincaid. Love the talent, love the pick. I don't think it's going to be coming in as fast as we expect. That's what I would say.
So I hear you. I would argue, though, that you and I don't have that expectation for rookie tight ends anyway.
Right, that's fair.
I would say if we are looking at this purely as a landing spot, I find it difficult to find a better one. Mm-hmm. He, to me, feels like the perfect complement for Stephon Diggs. This guy who can work over the middle of the field, vertical threat. And for me, Dawson Knox does not worry me. Dawson Knox is nowhere near the receiving threat that Dalton Kincaid is. And the Bills traded up ahead of the Cowboys to cock block them and take Dalton Kincaid. I think they have a clear need for him. They knew that. And they were getting beat by the Kansas City Chiefs a lot in the playoffs, and Travis Kelce had a big reason to play in that. They said, we want us one of them. Now, I'm not saying Kincaid will be as good as Kelce, but he has everything in his profile to be an elite receiving threat at the tight end position.
Yeah.
To me, Stephon Diggs is almost 30. If you're thinking about this from a different light, Dalton Kincaid could be a year or two off of putting up ridiculous numbers at the tight end position because they're going to be a damn good team.
Yeah.
And they're not going to be in a position to draft a Marvin Harrison, a Namika Egbuka, one of these elite wide receiver prospects in 24 or in 25 and beyond. Kincaid is set up here to maybe not his first year because we don't expect that, but in his second year onwards, this could be a top 5 tight end sooner than we realize. So I think it's perfect. To be honest, I think it's perfect. I'm not going to put it in the GOAT, but I personally really like this.
You like it? Yeah.
I don't know. Again, I think it's great. There's no one outside of Diggs that you're like, they really worry me. And I just think it's like this is what they want. They want a player like this to compete with the Kansas Cities of the world.
Yeah, and I can definitely see the argument, and I'm happy to put him out. I like it, and I think what's really going to matter is, okay, what happens in day 2, right? What if an X gets drafted to the Bills? What if a Mingo, or I know we're not massive on Mingo, but what if one of those guys gets drafted, Parker Washington, any of those guys? Let me say this.
There's not a wide receiver, tight end. There's not a receiving threat left in the draft that I think challenges Dalton Kincaid.
Okay. I think I would say there's a couple. And yeah, there may not be. If
there was, then they would have drafted them ahead of Kincaid.
Well, I'm saying like in the later rounds, like a developmental guy that could take opportunity away. Like I said, we've seen Mingo go higher. We've seen Xavier. We're big Xavier Hutchinson believers. What if it's one of those guys, right? What if it's Josh Downs in the second if he does fall? So many different scenarios. Okay. But I do like Dalton Kincaid. I'm not saying I don't like Dalton Kincaid in the landing spot. Just questioning, once again, the fantasy outlook.
So why don't we give props where props is due? I mean, it is premature because Quentin Johnson could still be a bust, but the landing spot's great. Yeah. The draft capital is great. You stuck to your guns. Quentin's been your wide receiver 1. He goes to the Chargers. I got to ask, where would you put him then?
Look, biasly, obviously, I probably want to put it in GOAT spot, but I'm going to put it in I like it. I think it isn't. And the only reason why I say I like it is because maybe I'm downplaying it because I don't want to, once again, I'm downplaying it because my true gut feeling is like I want to put in GOAT spot. But
I have it there.
You have it there, and I love that. I love that because if you say you have it there without me influencing, that's great because that means the landing spot is phenomenal. Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, these older wide receivers, probably going to fade out here very soon. Kellen Moore coming in. Justin Herbert, top 5 quarterback in my rankings, knows how to distribute the ball, knows how to make fantasy relevant wide receivers. This is an absolute gold mine here with Quentin Johnston, and I'm happy that it's happened.
So you tell me exactly where you want it. You can put it wherever you want. It's your wide receiver 1.
My wide receiver 1 is put it in GOAT spot. I was trying to play. I was trying to play it cool, and I didn't want to. I hear you,
but I think he is clearly the wide receiver connected to the best quarterback
in this draft,
and that quarterback is clearly going to be there for a very long time.
Exactly.
So that doesn't mean that he's going to fix his problems with his hands. That doesn't mean that he's going to become an elite wide receiver, but it means purely based off landing spot.
You feel comfortable with the investment. I think that's what a lot of people are now kind of realizing. Quentin with Justin Herbert, oh my goodness. Justin Herbert, we all know, is going to get a long-term contract. Yeah. Quentin is going to be here for the next 4 or 5 years, and Keenan Allen, Mike Williams won't be here for the next 4 or 5 years. Not even Austin Eckler will be here for the next 4 or 5 years. That is going to be an offense that can be completely changed, especially, once again, new offensive coordinator Kellen Moore coming from the Dallas Cowboys, a power offense that he was commanding over there. I think it's great.
My floor comp for Quentin is Mike Williams.
Shout out to Mike, huh?
That's my floor comp for him. Okay, and the last player drafted in the first round is Zay Flowers, a player that I love. Let's not make this confusing. I love Zay Flowers. I've been talking about him as this prospect that I like. But the Ravens have to be, in my opinion, the worst landing spot for a wide receiver, period. I can't think of a worse landing spot for Zay Flowers. And I've talked about this in a video before, but let me just quickly go on my spiel and then you'll tell me that, if you see any differently. The pieces to this pie in Baltimore, this is a small pie, guys. This is not a big pie. We just talked about the Chargers. Guess what? The Chargers were second in passing attempts per game last year. Okay, the Ravens were 28th. The Chargers had 485. The Chargers had 185 more passing attempts than the Ravens did last year. That is so many targets. You've got Andrews to compete with. You're not gonna outshine Mark Andrews. You're not gonna have more targets than him this year. That's not happening. What about OBJ? There seems to be a very friendly connection between him and Lamar. He didn't sign money to be a nobody. Rashad Bateman's still a first-round talent wide receiver, and this is an offense that has found success through the run game. 3 years in a row, from 2018 to 2020, they were first in rushing attempts per game. And from 2021 to 2022, top 6 in rushing attempts per game. So anyway, I love Zay Flowers, love the talent, but people might say, well, OBJ is a one-year deal. OBJ could come back, right? Rashad Bateman's still going to be there. Mark Andrews still going to be there. And we still don't know if Lamar Jackson can make 3 people relevant in fantasy football. I love Zay Flowers. I don't see this landing spot. I don't like it.
I definitely hear you. Look, I've been an advocate for. I'm just pulling up something. I've been an advocate for the Ravens as a landing spot, and that was before OBJ 1-2. I still believe in this team and Lamar Jackson to make a fantasy relevant and produce a fantasy relevant wide receiver. Yes, Mark Andrews is going to be commanding targets. And
do you believe in them to make 2 fantasy relevant wide receivers while we know Mark Andrews will already be fantasy relevant?
I would say this.
Is there a way that 2 outside of Mark Andrews can't be?
I would say yes, but not with OBJ on this team. And I know that is this year, and I know a lot of people, and that's what a lot of people are leaning on. But yes, OBJ can re-sign to this team for another year after 2023. But if he doesn't, Zay Flowers is there with Rashad Bateman, who is going to be on his contract year. Mark Andrews is there as well. So that's look. The fantasy relevancy may not happen right away. And that is my process here. My process is that Lamar Jackson is here for the next, 5 years now that he got the bag. I doubt they're going to re-sign Rashad Bateman. I doubt that they're going to re-sign Odell Beckham. And yes, both of those things are a big if, but Zay Flowers is here for the long haul. He is a slot receiver. Lamar Jackson can't be running the ball like he used to because we've seen him 2 consecutive years missing the second half of the season and not making the playoffs, which hindered him to get paid. A new offensive coordinator coming from Georgia, I think it's Todd Monken, I think it's called. Hopefully I say that correctly. Todd Monken coming out of Georgia.
And he doesn't have much history.
He doesn't have much history in maybe producing the fantasy wide receivers or kind of thinking of changing it, but he has more history in having rotational backs, which that's kind of what Georgia is really known for, more rotational guys coming in producing. But I think there's still hope here because we haven't seen this offense and we haven't seen everyone come to fruition. And not only that, OBJ is the perfect mentor to bring Zay up, right? And that's the way I see it. OBJ was drafted as a slot receiver. Zay is a true slot receiver that can create space, get separation, and has fantastic hands. And maybe this is what you need, a mentor to bring him up in the year 1. So once OBJ is gone, they believe in Zay. So once again, this is a long haul investment. But I think I'm believing that Lamar Jackson is going to be producing a fantasy relevant wide receiver here in the near future.
So the first thing that you said is you don't see it this year. And that's my problem because people in Dynasty, they change their opinion by the week when we get into the season. Seriously. 100%. Like, do you remember me having to defend Travis Etienne as a buy? And he was like the RB15 in Dynasty after like the first 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. It took 2 weeks for people to be out on Etienne, right? I mean, people as much as we think people are smart and they allow players to develop, people don't play like that. I mean, if it's not going to happen in year one, his value to me is not going to be higher heading into year two. That concerns me. And if OBJ wasn't there, I'm kind of more like interested. But OBJ is there, you know.
Mm-hmm.
What if I think that's where I land on it. I'm just like, I think of any player, and this is how I'll sum this up. Of any player, he is the one that I find the most difficult to project his value rising in year one.
Okay. Look, I mean, yes, his value may not rise in year one, but what will rise, and it's unfortunate I'm even going to say this, Rashad Bateman, injury prone, OBJ, injury prone with these ACLs. He may see himself on the field sooner rather than later and see those opportunities sooner rather than later in a fantasy perspective.
That would be great.
And I think
they are healthy right now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They are healthy right now. So like, I think that's what a lot of people are going to lean on. The talent's still there potentially. I believe in Lamar Jackson. So look, I don't think we should count him out. Okay. And I'm not saying that you are counting him out. I think there is still a pathway there to success. It may take a little bit longer than what we really wanted for Zay Flowers.
I don't want to be labeled anti-Zay because like I was leading the Zay train before the draft night, but I've long been saying this is the worst spot. Why don't we just put Will Levis at the I don't see it stage then? Because that boy is done. Yeah. I'm sorry, I don't have any interest. But
Dunzo.
Let's call that. Let us know what you guys think in the comments below. Drop a like to show some love. Subscribe if you like Dynasty content. And listen to these guys. They're going to tell you how to dominate your Dynasty drafts. Now that those idiots are done talking, who needs some rankings?
Hell yeah, I need some rankings.
Then use promo code LAND, L-A-N-D, for 30% off any membership at flockfantasy.com.
Oh.
It's so easy. Even your grandma could scan that QR code right there.